I had just posted a video of a ticking noise on this Festiva, and I had already done lifters and a few things. So I took it apart, found out number 4 exhaust valve lash adjuster or lifter, whatever you want to call it, was bad, which is really frustrating because they were brand new. So anyway, went ahead and replaced that. I'll start it up so you can hear it, and then I'll show you a few tips and tricks on how to replace it. It won't be a full replacement video, but getting on down to it and stuff is not hard. I'll just show you a few intricacies of doing the job. But let me go ahead and crank it up for you and show you that it's fixed. Well, as you can hear, nice and quiet, all that ticking is gone. I'm glad it was something easy and not a big deal, but also frustrating at the same time to get bad brand new parts. Seems like it's been a more common theme, especially ever since COVID, man. Like the last 3-4 years has been getting bad, but more and more that seems to be like electrical parts. We get a lot of bad electrical components, so especially up at the shop, we've been sticking to only OEM stuff, only dealer quality electronics. But let's go ahead and jump into some of the tips and tricks as far as replacing that lash adjuster. Well, I'm working on a Ford Festiva again. I put lifters in this car recently, all 8, and right as soon as I did, I had a terrible lifter tick. So I'm going to put the part number in the description not to buy, and then I'll put the part number to buy. The ones that we went with this time are going to be Melling. This one is specifically the one that's bad, number 4 exhaust. So I'm not going to do a step-by-step on removal, really, but wanted to show you the intricacies of replacing them right here. So take a picture, take a really good note of where these springs are. There are 4 of them per rocker shaft, and it's very important that they go in the right positions. First off, we're going to remove this one, and we'll go ahead and pull this rocker off right here. Alright, so this is the bad one. I messed with it yesterday trying to get it to work, and it is just no bueno. Pretty much it would just flop around and I could compress it by hand. So it is very bad lifter. Set that one off to the side. AutoZone could only get me 3, so I'm going to replace at least 3 for now, and then when I can get the other ones, I'll go back and go ahead and replace those. But I want to get the car running again. It's super easy to replace these lifters, so I'm not worried about having to do it several times. I've got them sitting in a little coffee can of oil. Let me go ahead and get them out. So there's our first one. What you want to do is you want to fill up this reservoir here with oil. It doesn't have to be perfect. A little bit will run out. But what you can do is get you a container of oil like this. Just dip the cup in there, and that will hold plenty enough oil for now. Then you can just get your lifter that's also been soaking in oil and just push it in there. I want to make sure you do this with oil for sure, because there's an O-ring that you can damage if you don't do it right. So there we go. We're going to get that thing started. It's not all the way in. We're going to need to take it to the vise to set this thing completely. So let me move the camera, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is get a socket that is just big enough to fit over the fit over the plunger of the lifter and sit on the body just like that. And we're going to set it in the vise, and we're going to compress it the rest of the way to seat it into the rocker arm. Doesn't take a whole lot of force, so don't go crazy. Once you get it seated past the O-ring, you're done, and you'll feel it bottom out. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this step on the rest of the ones that I have. Like I said, I've only got 3 right now. And then I'll show you another trick to get these things back installed. Once you got your lifters in, the next tip is going to be with the springs here. So these can really be a pain when you're tightening this back down to the cylinder head. What will happen is these springs will try to get under the bearing surfaces when you're trying to get everything settled down. If your cam isn't in the correct position, it'll make it nearly impossible. So what you want to do is get you 4 zip ties, and you're pretty much going to compress the spring all the way and zip the zip tie down all the way. You're not going to do it off the rocker. I just wanted to give you an illustration. So that's how it's going to look. And you're going to want to do that to all 4. It's a little difficult to do while they're on the rocker shaft, but it's not impossible. Just take a little bit of time and some needle nose pliers. It will definitely be worth it. So yep, let's go ahead and do all 4 of these. Take the zip tie here and just feed it underneath the spring. Okay, just like that. And then needle nose can make this a whole lot easier. So just pull it up, kind of rock it back and forth. Might need to compress the spring and then do it. There we go, there's another one. So just 2 more. Okay, let me show you what that looks like. Hopefully you can see that. It's under the spring there. This is not something I made up. I've been doing this for a very long time, for installing springs on all kinds of things. I think I first started doing it back, like trying to install the springs that go in GM doors. The ones that go on the roller for the door hold open. Those things have some crazy force behind them, and it's nearly impossible to get them on unless you do something like this, but you have to use metal zip ties. You want to leave the tails on all the zip ties. Don't take them off just yet. There'll be a key part, a key roll that those have whenever we go to remove them. I recommend doing these one at a time so you don't get the exhaust and intake rocker shafts mixed up. The bolt pattern should keep you from doing that, but you could mess up putting the rocker shaft in the wrong direction. If you took all of this off and set it on a table, you could actually, I think you could put it on backwards. I'm not exactly sure, but it would impede the oil feed is what would happen. That would be bad. All right, so let's go take it to the car, get it bolted down in the correct order. So we've got our rocker shaft assembly ready to go on. I want to double check that we have our oil ports in the right orientation. So you'll be able to see kind of where you took off the little pedestal keepers here on top. But to make sure you have this shaft in the correct orientation, there'll be a tiny little hole here on the end right next to the mounting hole. And that's going to match up here. You have a tiny hole for your oiling and your big hole that stud actually goes through. So go ahead and get this set on here. Get all of our spacing right. Kind of hard to do with one hand. Okay, more or less we got it there. Let me set the camera down so I can use both hands. Okay, so we've got this thing on. What you want to do is make sure all your springs are pushed away from your mounting surfaces. So that's what I was talking about earlier. If you don't do the little zip tie thing here, then what they'll do is they'll end up pushing out under these surfaces, and you'll end up clamping it in between the cam and the lower bearing there, and that's bad. So don't do that. Go ahead and start these. Start all 5 and get them sort of snuggish. I keep mine in the same order. I would recommend you doing the same. It's not extremely like scary crucial to do that, but on a used engine, always a good idea. so go ahead and push the springs up against the rockers that they're closest to, all across the board. As long as your cam's in the correct position with all the lobes down, then you'll be good to go. So I'm going to slowly start sinking these down, and then we'll do final torque. I want to do them as evenly as possible because it's possible to actually bend this rocker shaft. Wouldn't say it's common, but it's something that I have seen happen more than once. Okay, once they're completely snugged down, then we'll go ahead and move on to the torque wrench. And this is going to be 22 to 28 Newton meters, which is 16 to 21 foot-pounds. So let's get going on that. You actually are supposed to do these in sequence, this one over here and this one over here. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that, actually. I know it may not matter since they're not on the same spot, but I'm going to do it. So just going to break this one loose just enough, and then snug it back. That way I can follow the torque procedure. You should be able to find all this information as far as the torque procedure and the service manual on the Festiva board or Festiva forum. But now we can go ahead and get started with our torque. Okay, there we go. So once everything is torqued, then we're going to do the final step, which is going to be yanking out all these zip ties. So you leave the tail on there. That way, when you cut the bottom with some side cutters, you can yank it out. If you didn't leave the tail, it would make removing these things really difficult. You could possibly end up with plastic down in your cylinder head, and yeah, that's not fun either. Okay, so after you do this, you want to do one final check. Check all around, make sure these springs are not under the bearing surfaces on the top of the head here, and then you're good to go. So I'm not going to video the rest. I just wanted this to be a little bit of a kind of tip guide if you're going to replace your lash adjusters. So hopefully that helps you out. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.